Hey everybody, Dan Shep is back again. Today I want to show you how to submit games using VGA. Just a little background about VGA. They've actually been grading longer than anybody else in the market. They've been grading games and toys since 2008. Are consistently busy. They make their own molds. So basically anything, and I'm referring to games on this video, right? So anything that you submit game-wise, whether it be a standard edition, a collector's edition, or something wacky, they can put it in a piece of acrylic and grade it. Now, one caveat is they only do new or new in box, meaning qualified games. They do not do used. They do not do, so meaning like complete in boxes. They don't do single carts. They don't do prototypes, just as an FYI with that. So what I want to show you now is the site itself, which I'm going to link in the description. And these are hyperlinks. But if you were just looking at this page, I no joke, I went over this page 5 times before I found these hyperlinks because they're just not obvious. So couple things here that I want to explain, right? So submission form with directions. That means there's a submission form and it gives you a step-by-step with examples and detailed paragraphs of what to do for whether you're submitting a game or a toy or whatever. Obviously, we're going to do just games again. Submission form, no directions. That is if you're ultra confident, you know exactly what you're doing. You get the shortened version. There's some additional pages here if you want some more info. And I just want to explain this because it's right in front of our faces. So this serve at cgagrading.com. This is who you would contact, for any questions regarding your submissions or, if it was close to the project completion date, you might want to request the grades because they can provide those to you and things like that. You can even give them a call. To be honest, I've never called them. I don't know how reliable or unreliable they are, but I'm going to assume based on the email, them being reliable, I'm going to assume they're the same way on the phone. So for this video, so here is the basic submission form. Now, again, this is the one with directions. So I'm just going to scroll slow and just kind of show you what this is, right? So first page here is just your basic information, your address, your city, your state, your email address, your phone number. You can put in your eBay ID if you'd like. And then the second page here kind of explains the different quote unquote authorities, right? So I said CGA grades other things. And so the video game portion that we're discussing here is VGA, the Video Game Authority, right? They have a standard grading scale as well as the qualified grading scale. So standard simply means brand new in box, right? And that's typically with a seal of some sort, whether it's just, kind of like a sticker seal or it's, completely sealed with cellophane, something along those lines, that would be considered standard, sealed, and new, right? So that would be your standard grading scale. Your qualified grading scale, I know there's some confusion around this. Your qualified grading scale is basically open in a new box. So I guess a good example of this would be think of like the action set for the Nintendo, the console, right? That never came with a seal. It literally, you just open the box up and everything is new inside. That would be qualified because you cannot say that as standard because it doesn't have an actual seal. But the contents are new inside, so it still would be qualified, aka new in box. Okay. So let's see what else I can explain here that we can kind of go through. Again, I'm gonna kind of ignore the non-video game related portions here. You can read them on your own, and we'll just real quick. They can do action figures, they can do collectible dolls, they can do die casts, right, and related toys, and of course video games, which is what we're going over now. So, kind of skipping forward. So a little bit here about video games, I suggest you read. That has to do with kind of authenticity. So I suggest you kind of go over that. But again, it's not directly related to the submission, so just read it on your off time. Let's see here. So we're going to keep going down the list a little bit. So when you submit a game to VGA, again, their Video Game Authority segment, when you kind of submit a game to them, you have what they call tier codes and tier costs. The tier code is a code that is assigned to a specific tier. They have VS1, they have VSA, and we'll kind of go over those a little bit later. And then there is a cost per tier, right? To give you a completely transparent answer, I don't think either one is faster, at least that I've noticed. I'll always go the fastest, but I actually went the slowest. And we'll explain those kind of turnaround times that are expected, but I didn't really see a difference. So, also to note, and this is very important. So when you submit a game for grading, you can get a standard case, which is just high quality acrylic, or you can get their UV case, which kind of gives you that UV protection as well. So my opinion of that is, if you are keeping the game for your own collector purposes or reselling down the line purposes, to be fair, I suggest UV, just because it's more protected. If you're going to if you just bought a game and you're going to resell it tomorrow, but you want to get it graded by VGA, then you would definitely go just the standard acrylic. Okay. So let's go down. Let's go past this. This is for a different one. Well, I guess, and actually, no, I lied. Let's go back to this. So right here, now it says Collectible Grading Authority, because again, that's really what they are. They're Collectible Grading Authority. The Video Game Authority is just a segment of the Collectible Grading Authority. So on this page that we're on, it's a submission list, right? And it's kind of examples of all the different kinds of things you can submit to VGA, right? Which are right there. These three in the middle. Because I'm partial to Nintendo, we'll start off with a Nintendo Wii, right? So when you submit a game, keep in mind, right underneath this is a blank submission sheet, right? So this is what you actually fill in after you entered all your information, Dan Shepis, my address, my telephone number, all that good stuff. This is the second thing that they would need here, right? The submission list. So for an example here, right? Let's just make this easy, right? We'll just say quantity 1. I'm going to duplicate what's above in this submission list. So you can kind of see both parts here, right? So quantity 1, we'll say where's a copy above? 2006 is the year. The company is Nintendo. The series or game system is the Nintendo Wii. And also, fun fact, while I think about this here, with VGA, you can submit any game, whether it's old or new. They will grade anything, even like super cool, as long as it's new stuff. Now, I guess there's a little side note to that as well. I have seen like Nintendo World Championship patches being graded. I think that's kind of a one-off scenario, and don't quote me on that, but I believe that is, you contact them and you're like, look, I have this rare piece of history. It's new. It's new old stock essentially. And I think they make one-off kind of exceptions for that. So just be cognizant of that as well. So, okay. So series or game system, we have the Nintendo Wii. Details and title. So we're gonna copy what's above, and Zelda. That's interesting. So I just have noticed something here. So if you look at the submission sheet above, that's completely filled out, right? You look, it says details, and then next to that column, it says name and variation if applicable. Down here, it says details / title, and then name and variation if applicable. So that's kind of weird how they have that, because they have details and title. So I'm just going to follow the standard thing above, because to be completely transparent, they're going to correct it anyway. And I'm going to explain that a little bit later too. So even if you make a minor mistake here, don't hold it against yourself, because it's not going to affect the final product, right? So let's do disc game. And we'll do like above, Zelda Twilight Princess. Fair market value, according to this, we'll say $100. Great. And you want to put an honest number there, and I'll tell you why. So let's say, for example, and I'm going to say worst case scenario here, so this makes more sense. Say you send in a $10,000 game, and you mark it as $500 because what that essentially means is that's the number they are going to insure it on the way back. So if you put $100 here, they ship via UPS typically, and they will insure it for $100. If it says 10,000, they will insure it for 10,000. Now keep in mind that is obviously going to affect how much return shipping is going to cost. That's why people cheap out on this. I will say firsthand, do not cheap out on this. I had a Zelda Master Edition, which is a big box Zelda, and I'll put a picture of it on the screen so you can kind of see it. I had that sent to VGA, and they actually damaged it. So it was supposed to be a VGA 90, and it ended up being a VGA 85 plus. So I lost actually a grade, and I put for fair market value as 300 because I was trying to be cheap. Well, guess what? They would only give me 300 for the mistake because I only put $300 it was worth, and when in reality it was worth like 12 to 1500. So just be cognizant of that. I strongly suggest for fair market value you put an honest number. Tier code. We discussed this earlier. Now, there is a portion on the website, and to be honest, I'm slightly unprepared, but we will find it. So we're just going to make this easy. So we'll go VGA tier codes. If I could type. Okay, and we got lucky first one here. So, as I mentioned a couple times already, obviously CGA as a company, meaning the Collectible Grading Authority, has several different segments that they grade. Video games, VHSs, toys, and more. They used to do coins as well, but that's currently closed. But again, for the purpose of this video and kind of getting back on track, because I like to go on these little tangents, pricing in tier codes, which we need for our submission list. So let's go into VGA. Okay, bunch of good stuff here. Let me just explain it a little bit further. So this is the grading scale pricing. Don't mind VHS because we're going to ignore that for now. Again, we're doing this for games. So there are different kind of tiers you can go to, right? So you see there is a Recase Express, a Recase Priority, which again, we're just submitting to VGA. But if you've already submitted to VGA previously and you didn't like the way it was cased or something got stuck in there or got broken or whatever, you can get them recased based on Express or Priority. Express is 45 plus days expected, and Priority is 30 plus days expected. So I'm not going to get too much into those because, again, this is a submission video for VGA, not recasing or anything else. So you basically have two tiers that you can submit for video games. You have the premium tier, which has a $5,000 max value. So again, when you talk about that fair market value, be completely honest. If it's a $12,000 game, put $12,000. If it's $300, put $300. But be very honest here because you could end up screwing yourself if something goes sideways. Which, by the way, to add to this kind of review tutorial, VGA is an excellent company. Their customer service is fantastic. They have only screwed up my item once, and they paid me for it. Partially my fault how much they paid me for it. So as a company, they are very good, but I suggest you be honest just in case something goes sideways because you always got to count for worst case scenario. So we have the premium here, and premium is a 5K max value. And per this, and if you remember me earlier saying about turnaround times, I didn't see a significant difference because I usually always do archival. But this is per here a 75 plus day turnaround time. So what is that? 2.5 months at least. Okay. I would recommend paying the additional money. I believe it's an additional $35. We can get to that for standard size. We can get to that here in a second. So items over $5,000 value you have to do this. You have no option, right? Unless you, again, lie on the fair market value, which I do not suggest doing. So for items over $5,000, you are also billed at a 2.5% grading fee. So essentially, like we'll say $10,000, right? 2.5% of that, which would be, I guess, 250 if my math's right. That is extra because it's kind of a specialty item, right? There's got to be extreme care involved, right? Like if you have a Matt Mario one original, like you need to ensure it is absolutely taken care of with the utmost care. So that is the reason for the additional fee. This is 30-day turnaround. My honest response to that is they're usually over that. I had one game that got back in a month and a half, and I was really impressed. But typically, it's about 3 months, so about 90 days. Again, the tiers, I didn't seem to have a huge difference for turnaround time, but maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe so. Okay, so let's go down a little further here. So we have this, which, oh, by the way, these little tabs, they click down, right? So you can see kind of each of these quote unquote sizes. And what do I mean by that? So standard size, all that means is for every kind of game they grade, they have the standard size game. Let me give you an example. Nintendo NES is a cardboard box, right? A long, tall, rectangular cardboard box. They will grade any of those. That's no problem. That is standard size. Now, let me give you a difference. Let's say that NES box, well, let's say it was doubled in size and it was still an NES game. So it was a collector's edition or something, which there are hardly any, if any. So that's a bad example, but hear me out. Then you would have to go to one of these custom sizes. So basically, and I believe it's it would be the distance around. The distance around is less than 20 inches. You could use this custom 1 tier, right? And if you remember me in the beginning of the video saying VGA can mold to any size. So it doesn't matter if it's a gigantic, irregular size collector's edition or if it's a standard size game. They can do it all. But for the purpose of this video, I want to show you the standard size, right? Because standard is what most of us have or want to grade, right? You have a sealed game for Super Nintendo or Nintendo Wii or Sega Genesis or whatever, and you want to get it graded. Cool. So now, if you remember me with the tier codes earlier, there are 2 specific tier codes for submission. So again, you have the archival, which is, I believe, $35 more expensive. And I'm right, yes, because 90 plus 35, yes. So it's $35 more expensive, but includes the UV upgrade. Plus, according to VGA, it gives you a quicker turnaround time. So that tier code is VSA. So that is what you would need to put back here. VSA. Okay, so let's go back here so I can explain this a little further before we continue on. The premium tier, which is $35 less, but does not include the UV upgrade, that would be VS by accident. So those are the 2 different tiers and their tier codes that you can submit with VGA. Now, if we go down a little further here, so this explains these different things. So let me clarify back. I'm going to actually scroll up a little so this makes more sense. So it says UV upgrade. Well, if you remember for premium, it isn't a standard thing to have a UV case. So you could add it for $20. So in reality, you can get the same thing as you would in the archival, right? The case with the UV upgrade for actually $10 less. But per them, it's slower. Per them, it's 75 plus days. So just be cognizant of that. Now, grading summary is pretty cool. And I also don't have this prepared, but I'm gonna do some magic real quick, so just bear with me. I'm gonna go to my Facebook group and I want to show you real fast what a VGA grading summary looks like. I obtained this from a guy in the community, and this is a standard VGA grading summary. This is how detailed VGA really is. Like, you might think, oh, they're just assigning some random number based on opinion, right? And I get that argument, right? Like, you want to, with your money, ensure that you're getting something that actually had work put into it, right? That is under professional care, with professional knowledge, and, guys that really know what they're doing. They know the seals. They know how much a ding or dent is going to affect a grade, because this, you may or may not know, VGA in comparison to CGC or WADA, CGC and WADA almost grade identical. Like, they grade most things pretty high. Like, you'll look at like an 8.0 and you'll be like, dude, this looks like a 6.5, right? Because they're very lenient with their grades. I'm not going to get into skeptical, theoretics of why that is. But all I'll say is they grade way higher than VGA. VGA is notorious for grading very harshly. Something like Beckett for sports cards, right? They are known for being very, very, very harsh. So this is, again, just an example of a grading summary. Feel free to take a screenshot. As you can see, it's got a little seal in the bottom left too. It's a very cool little thing if you want that with your submission, with your game. So let's actually go back to here. And I want to show you one more thing. So here you have, and I guess I should have labeled this as well after the tiers. These are add-ons, right? And these are upgrade codes here as well that you basically add to the submission sheet. And if you really want to specifically know, it is right here, here, and here, right? So if you wanted to add these add-ons, you can do so. And the last one that I didn't go over was cleaning. So I wouldn't really recommend this for something like a Nintendo Switch game. And the reason I say that is because they're going to have very little dust. They're not like an NES game that's sealed that has 30 years of dust on it, right? I mean, even if it wasn't and it was kept in a temperature controlled environment, sealed all up, it's still likely going to have some kind of residue on it. Or, well, dirt, really. Probably not residue unless it was, in the remnants of a sticker or something from a store. But I would suggest this option for something like a Nintendo NES game, a Super NES game, even like a PS1 or PS2 game, because, they can get pretty grody too over the years, especially if they're not, stored properly. So, and this will help your grade because it's going to look dirty. It's going to likely grade worse. So just FYI on that. So this is all I wanted to go over as far as, the different sizes for the cases, whether they're standard or custom, as well as the options for each size, as well as the add-ons you can get for each submission. And pardon me while I get some water. It's turning more into a podcast than I thought it would. So, not really. But let me go back here to the submission sheet. So now let's all that stuff we just learned, let's put that in action, okay? Right? So we're gonna do a new submission here, right? So I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do 1997 Square Enix for Sony PlayStation. And this is also going to be a disc game. Okay. And this is going to be Final Fantasy VII. Fair market value for a sealed Final Fantasy VII. I'll say $2,500. So let's go back to the tier codes real quick, just so we can refresh ourselves here. Tier codes. So again, I'm going to pick the archival because I want the quote-unquote faster turnaround time as well as the UV upgrade, so VSA. VSA. Tier cost, $125. By the way, this submission is going to be a bust, right? We're going to clear this out because we don't want this actually part of anything. Skip ahead 4 seconds if you want to fast forward of my backspaces here. Okay. So we have our submission, our tier call, our VSA, which again is the archival with the UV upgrade. We're paying a little more, but we get the faster turnaround time in theory. So remember those optional add-ons, or as they're called here, upgrades, right? You can get clean, you can get report, meaning the grader's report, or you can get the UV case for the premium tier. So we couldn't, this basically doesn't apply to us. So nothing here. Don't put an X, by the way, just showing you for visual effect, right? But let's go back to our add-ons over here, right? So for this game, we don't need the UV upgrade again because we did the archival tier, okay, which includes the UV upgrade. We want the grading summary. We want to see a full detail of what they found, because unless you have a very trained eye, meaning you've looked at hundreds of graded games, you are not going to know the difference between a 9.8 and a 9.6. Or in VGA terms, because that was a bad example, you're not going to know the difference between a VGA 90 and a VGA 90 plus. Or you might not even know the difference between a VGA 85 and a VGA 90, right? It can be very small things. It can be scratches in the plastic. It could be, dings. It could be dents. It could be factory defect. It could be a magnitude of things. So just, sun fade, it goes on and on. But we want this grading summary. Again, I'm getting on a tangent. So actually we want the clean, which I know this as plus CL. That is the code for the add-on, right? Report, and the report is GR for grader's report. We don't need the UV upgrade. All right. So total cost. How do we calculate it, right? Tier code 125. Got it. What does CL cost? $10. And what does grading summary cost? $25. Okay. So 10 and 25 is 35 plus 125. So you would be at 160. And maybe sometime in the future, they'll incorporate giving you photos back of your item. But for right now, they are currently unavailable. So now, to kind of continue this submission here. So the total insured value is just basically this column, your fair market value, as I mentioned earlier. 2,500. The total quantity of items, we only have the one, so 1. Now, total grading cost in this form is just what's on the right here, which is 160. The insured value has no relevance here. So now at the bottom, this kind of looks intimidating, and to be honest, it is very cluttered, but it has everything you need. You just don't get too intimidated by it. I just recommend you read this a couple times, and this will be easier than clockwork, I promise. So now there are 2 different kinds of label types that you can get from VGA, or styles, I guess is the better word, right? So you have the classic style, which basically is, it can be on the side or the bottom of the case inside, and it's like inside. So you can't see it from the front. To be honest, I don't really care for it. Some people really like it, but I'll actually find you a clear style label and I'll put it on the screen just so you can see what it looks like. And the next one, the clear view style label, which is what I typically get. So that just means just think of an NES game, an NES box, right? In acrylic, and then you can see it on the top, right in the front. It's beautiful, it's sleek, and I'll also put one of those on the screen just so you can see it again. So we're going to do the clear view style label, okay? So now it asks you a question, and you got to answer this as well. So if any item, turn desktop notifications off. If any item on this list is refused for grading due to restoration or tampering, which of these 3 options would you prefer? Now, keep in mind, this might upset some people and may make some people think, if they don't know if their item is a reseal or authentic, which I recommend, asking in a Facebook group or something. But say you send in something that is a reseal by accident or on purpose, whatever. You send it in, they're going to refuse it, and you don't get your money back. So the $160 plus the return shipping costs plus insurance, you're out of that. So I had one game come back because it came back as a fake, and I was like, oh, what the heck? But anyway, yeah, didn't get any of that money back, so I lost like $200. It's pretty disheartening. So make sure your games are real. But you have three options. You could say, I want them to be sealed in acrylic without a grade label. So now keep in mind, it has to be authentic, and there can't be any modifications. It'll be fun to edit this video because I have to basically put 2 and 2 together. My screen editing software decided it wanted to quit at 30 minutes, and I didn't realize how much of a tutorial this actually is. But anyway, so let's resume with where we were at, right? So if any item on this list that you submit, your games or game, right? If it comes back as tampered with or a reseal, a reproduction, or whatever, they give you 3 options here. Now, number 1, and I want to explain this a little further too because I'm going to bite my tongue here in a second. So I would like my items to be sealed in an acrylic case without a grade label, right? That just means, now keep in mind, this is not available for items refused due to any signs of restoration, reseals, or reproductions. So in other words, it has to be authentic. But this is more tampering, I guess. I guess tampering would be really the only option here. That you could do this where it would be sealed in an acrylic case. Now, there's no grade label, so you have no grade assigned to it, but it'll be an acrylic case and it'll be beautiful. So 2, I would like my items returned back to me uncased. So that's the default. That's what I always pick, right? I don't want them to touch anything of mine. If it's fake, a reseal by accident that I didn't catch, send it back to me. Now, you could also have number 3, if you want an unsealed acrylic case, you can get one made for your item. It doesn't matter if it's real, fake, like whatever. They'll just custom make you an acrylic. So that is an option, and I think, yeah, okay, yeah. There's additional charges for number 3, and I haven't done this, so I'm just kind of reading on the fly here. But yeah, apparently it all depends on like the sizes. So if you do the standard sizes, like for games, it would be 10. And then they have those custom tiers, and they range from custom 2, which would be 20, to custom 5, which is 50. It's actually 20, 30, 40, 50, 2, 3, 4, 5 as their custom tiers. So it's actually not too expensive if you still want a beautiful acrylic case, and it will just open in the bottom. It won't be sealed. So let me drink a little bottle of water here. Okay. So let's go to the last question on this submission list. If any boxed item submitted for grading to VGA is refused for grading due to dry, questionable, or double tape, would you like us to cut the tape, inspect the contents, and if the item is eligible, grade the item under the qualified scale? So let me explain this a little bit. Let's say, for example, you have a Mario 3 for Super Nintendo. You have a Mario 3 for Nintendo. I'll put a picture of it on the screen. If, for some reason, like the seal, it's clearly a reseal, right? Somebody put it in a round shrink wrap around it, got a heat gun, it's a clear reseal, right? But they open it, and there's no hinge marks on the box. And everything is new inside. It can be graded as qualified. Again, qualified is new and open box. So it's technically still new, but it's not the standard scale because the cellophane in this case was tampered with, right? Also, like, would apply to gloss sticker games for Nintendo NES, right? With the gloss sticker games, it's only a little gloss sticker, but that sticker can come loose over years, right? So When that becomes loose, they can't grade it as standard because technically it's not fully sealed, right? It was just, the weather over the years, or the climate, I should say, over the years, just, took that seal up. So anyhow, so I'm going to say no, don't touch it. I guess kind of intimidating as well. This is where you calculate the total amount. And this is honestly so much easier than it looks. So let me just explain. Don't even worry about the insurance value for UPS grant. You don't have to calculate it. They're going to send you an invoice that you have to satisfy. That's it, right? So calculation of total amount due. Owed from submission list 1. $160, just like we put before. That's all I got to put, right? 160. Okay. Total grading fees due for submission list. Just that one, 160. Total due for return shipping. They'll calculate it. You don't need to. Total due for return insurance. They'll calculate it. You don't need to. So then all you got to put here is the 160. Yeah, that's it. It's no more intimidating than that. Look, these boxes down here, you don't have to touch them. This is like if you want specific shipping to your FedEx or UPS account, right? If you want to do that, you know how to ship. I'm not gonna, you know how to do that, right? But for everybody else that doesn't do that, please choose a method of payment. Looks super painful, right? Not really. Yeah, look, you can put your credit cards, and then you would sign here. But you are printing this, so you want to sign that in ink, by the way. If you signed it in typo or in type, would they accept it? Maybe, but I wouldn't beg. I would actually sign. But what I do is I just put my email here, which I'm not going to put, my email at paypal.com, right? So I put that there, and then what happens is, when my item is ready to start the process of getting graded, right? The inspection and, the pointing out the details, the imperfections, and writing them on the grader's report and, converting that to some number based on their scale. Once that's done, then we have this. So they basically send me an invoice to my PayPal and I pay it. And then they start that process. So that's it. That's all you have to do for that entire sheet. Not that bad. So I'm not going to go over these because this will bore the crap out of you, but this is, their terms and conditions. I do highly suggest you read them because there are some very important things here, with authenticity and, if there's damage and things like that. So just be cognizant of these and read them. Same here. I suggest you read them as well. And the reason is because you need to return this sheet as well. They need your signature, your printed name, and your date in wet ink to basically say they are not liable if something gets screwed up with your item. Now, again, to lower your anxiety a bit, let's take a breath. They are a very good company. If you send them items shipped well, so no damage at the fault of your own, in other words, they will take the utmost care of your items. They are super professional. And if they screw up, they will admit they screwed up. Like that example when I gave you earlier about the Zelda Master Edition that got, it got a little crush in it. They apologized and they gave me back the total insurance amount. So just, definitely consider that when you're submitting to them because they're a great company. Also here. Well, actually, here's actually the liability portion specifically, right? This is going to say, you don't hold us liable for anything because it's not our fault. You got to sign, you got to print, you got to date. And if you have any specific instructions that you want them to know, and I'll give you an example of mine. I usually ship mine with some kind of protector, whether it's acrylic or it's just a plastic protector, like a hard one. I say return those. Because I like those. I reuse those for almost all my games have protectors on them, right? So, anything you want them to know, or maybe something about that particular release. Is it a fourth print whatever? Is it a first print this? Is it a second print that? Does it have, a promotion tied to it? Whatever. Make sure to add that here and potentially add it to your label. So that's it, right? So special instructions here. And then all you got now is you just got to package your items for shipment. And that is it, right? So and just a real quick, I'm not going to go, this isn't a shipping thing. If you want to look through my other video, which is how to ship things via pirate ship, that shows you kind of an efficient way to do it. But when you pack boxes, which maybe I'll do a future video for this too, I guess. When you pack boxes, especially for valuable games that you want to get graded, I suggest double boxing them. What does that mean? A box inside of a box. And then the inner box has adequate padding all the way around it and under it and above it. And that essentially is a guarantee that you, and I suggest using plastic to wrap it as well so it's watertight, right? Just in case the mailman gets caught in a rainstorm. You know, there are acts of God that happen, right? So those things, consider that when you ship these. But when you, so let's say, all right, you have your shipment ready, right? What do you do now for this form? So I would suggest just printing out everything the first time, right? The first time, print out the entire thing. This will be your filled out information, right? This needs to go, by the way. This does not need to go. 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 This absolutely needs to go. This is your submission list, right? This needs to go as well. This is your total cost of what that you know is due. Again, you don't have to do the shipping portion or the insurance portions. That saves you time. You don't need this. You don't, and you need this. Sorry, you need this. And you need this. And that's it. Now, so print those out, fold them up, put them in an envelope, whatever you want to do, or just put them on the top of the package so they don't get wet. That's all. Not on the top, not the top of the box, inside the box so they're protected, but just so VGA knows it's coming to them. Okay. Where does it go? Right here. CGA Inc., 6920 Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, Suite E, Norcross, Georgia, 30071. Now, be aware, because you're going to kind of question this the first time you do it, especially if you make a label at home, right? If you make a label at home, it's going to say Peachtree Corners, Georgia, I believe. So if you see that, don't be alarmed. It's the same place. So then you ship it there. And then now here, real quick, this is going to be the end of my video, but just kind of as a final statement here, you have no tracking other than what you save, right? So your tracking number for your packages. So let's just say, for example, you sent this via USPS. You go to the post office. You got a tracking number. Or if you printed the label, you have your tracking number and maybe something like Pirate Ship or PayPal or ShipStation or Stamps.com or something, right? That is your only tracking. So in other words, VGA, or well, technically they're called CGA, the Collectible Grading Authority. CGA will only know where your package is once they receive it. So ensure it gets to them safely. And then once they get it, you'll get an email that says your submission has been received, and then an invoice is going to be to follow, and then the invoice will come, you pay the invoice, then they start the grading process again, right? So if you've listened this long, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, feel free to private message me privately, or leave a comment down below. And if you like my video, as always, feel free to like and potentially subscribe.